What is up, everybody? Keith, aka Gator Guy 231, and really excited to do this all season. We're going to be recapping my main cash lineups for both DraftKings and Fanduel. I'll go over what the core plays were for our subscribers on mine. On my part, our subscribers also get cores from TK and Keats, my two guys that do NFL with me, and the shows on Wednesday. So make sure you're subscribed to our channel for all the content. We have a lot coming your way for NFL and all the other sports. So with that in mind, let's just jump right into my lineup, my rationale, and how we got to cash. So I'm going to start out at DraftKings. Actually, I should say this too. I'm going to be on here on Mondays, regardless of how well it goes. So it's awesome that I get to join you all this today and go over a winning lineup. But I'm hoping that I don't have any just doozies where y'all can rip me apart for some terrible decisions. So let's start with DraftKings. At the quarterback position, I really was in between two things. I'm almost always going to pay down a quarterback unless there's just like insane value to get there. But I was between Tyrod and Mitch Trubisky, both of which ended up being like not owned at all. Both had rushing upside. I ultimately decided to go with Taylor because I thought the matchup was a little bit better versus Cincinnati. Did not go my way. Obviously, there was no touch. He didn't get part of any touchdown. But, if he did throw even one, we're up to 13, 14 points. And I think he's fine. But, at 5,600, he made a lot of the other pieces I wanted fit and just kind of fit the build like a glove. So we went with it. Obviously, that was a mistake. The next guy was in my core. I should do this. My core was Josh Jacobs, Boston Scott, Devontae Adams, Malcolm Brown, and then a choice of Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf. I'm trying to think of who the other guy I put in there was. I think Deshaun Jackson was there too, who had a bad game, so I'm glad I avoided him. Anyhow, Josh Jacobs drew an outstanding matchup versus the Panthers. We know that Gruden and the Raiders really, really do want to, be heavy run game. All sorts of rumors that Jacobs had worked on his pass catching, was going to be a lot more involved in the pass catching side of things, especially when we saw Riddick cut. So just all signs pointed to Jacobs, and he was too cheap. So, he was a lock in all my builds. He was in my FanDuel core too. And 3 touchdowns later made me and, very highly owned. 50% of the players were on him. We all look like very smart people. Boston Scott was the highest owned player in cash on the slate. With no Miles Sanders, huge opportunity versus the Redskins. Now, here's the deal. Eagles' offensive line got just destroyed. I think at 7.4 points for his price, he was just fine. But I do think it's worth noting, this was the low range of outcomes for him was 7.4 DK, given his role. A lot of people are going to say that maybe he was bad chalk. Look, he scores once or he's, catches a few more balls. And all of a sudden you're at 12, 13 DK at his tag. He just smashes it. And I really think from cash that's where I really play a lot of my volume in NFL is in cash games. So it's just somebody I really dislike the term block, but I just think he was optimal. So it wasn't that you were trying to block your opponents. It's just that realistically the opportunity for him in that Eagles offense was too good to pass up. Next guy, highlighted on the Wednesday show, Devontae Adams, I thought just to me was so far ahead of any other wide receiver on the slate. It wasn't that close. Minnesota's secondary, I joked on Wednesday, I don't know who any of those corners are. I still don't know. I don't think Devontae Adams knows who they are because he was dusting them the entire game. But just a massive game. He's going to have a huge season, guys. So I think if DraftKings doesn't get his salary up quick, he might be one of the first guys that you lock and load in your lineups at all. I don't even know what he is this week. I haven't pulled up salaries yet. He was far too cheap this week. I want to say it was 73 or 7,400. Number one wide receiver in my rankings. We posted for subscribers on Saturday. Was a lock everywhere except for FanDuel, where his price was a little crazy. I'll go over that build shortly, but huge game. He and Jacobs alone. I think if you had them, you didn't cash, you made some huge mistakes because putting them in and getting, what is that, almost 80 points out of the two, you should be cashing. Terry McLaurin thought that actually was a good game environment versus a bad Eagles secondary. 11.1 was just fine. Malcolm Brown, I was actually really surprised at his ownership. By far the number one receiver in Baltimore versus a pretty bad Cleveland secondary. Like Hollywood's going to be a problem, guys. I was joking in chat. Like he's going to be a problem. Mark Andrews, and Lamar Jackson, especially when you add back the rushing attack for Baltimore. I thought at 5,200 he was just far too cheap. As soon as I lock in Adams, Brown was the next guy, and honestly, felt like he almost had a floor game. If he would have gotten into the end zone, he could have had a huge outcome. T.J. Hockenson, look, the moment that Golladay was out, I think a lot of people are deciding to go Marvin Jones Jr. I honestly I liked the chance to fill my tight end spot with a guy that really could be playing like a hybrid receiver, playing out of the slot. Top 10 pick last year. Just think Hawkinson's supremely talented. I saw the tweet from Levitan this morning that honestly he didn't get to play a ton of snaps, which is a little worrisome. Maybe I got a tad bailed out, but the process I think was right. Without Golladay shifting 2-3 targets towards Hawkinson's way, and obviously he scored, made it look good. Now here's the play I think I got a little bit bailed out on. Alvin Kamara. I think the process once again was right. Like he was going to catch 5-6 balls out of the backfield, probably get 10-15 carries. So you're projecting for 20 touches, 7,200. I thought that Tampa Bay and New Orleans was a really good game environment for scoring. So I kind of wanted a piece, so to speak. I thought Kamara fit my build really well. Like I literally plugged in everything else, and Kamara was the last guy in because I really like the Pats D too. So it just felt good. Now, if you actually look at the game or you watch the game, he was bottled up most of the time. So got really lucky to get 2 touchdowns, almost had 3. Saw a lot of people actually like lost a good amount of GPP money on that 3rd touchdown getting overturned, which was really, really close. I was watching that live. But again, I think Kamara throughout the season, we can bank on, 5-6 catches and then, 10-15 rushes. So if you give Alvin Kamara 20 touches a game, I think that you always have to project him in that double-digit category. That's what I did and how I ended on. Finally, Patriots defense, I don't think we need to talk too much about. Belichick versus the Dolphins. Thought there was a good chance for like a pick 6. 11 DK I'll take. All right, jump over to FanDuel. Lamar Jackson, I really don't think I have to talk too much about why Lamar Jackson. Here was the thing on FanDuel, the way that wide receivers were priced. And the value of Boston Scott just made it really easy to get to Jackson. So I locked him in. Boston Scott, we've talked about. Christian McCaffrey, again, I don't really need to talk about that. I would have loved him on DK, just, where he was at price-wise and where the values. I just thought that it restricted your builds too much. My FanDuel core, by the way, was Lamar Jackson, Scott, McCaffrey, Malcolm Brown, Adam Thielen, who I'll talk about in a minute, and then the choice between Jacobs or Chris Carson. And the only reason I made that choice was because if you used Chris Carson, who had a great game, you could actually upgrade your defense. I really wanted to play Josh Jacobs. Left me on the Washington defense, which obviously did great. But McCaffrey, I thought like if you could have gotten to him on DK, he was an easy play, but it just was hard getting there. Malcolm Brown or Hollywood Brown was way underpriced on FanDuel as well. So he was a lock and load. Marvin Jones Jr. obviously was pretty popular without Golladay. A lot easier to fit on FanDuel. Like if he was the same price as Terry Mack, I can't remember. Anyhow, I ended up Marvin Jones Jr. He fit good. He was always, a top play for me. Had a bad game, but it worked out. Adam Thielen, all right, 6,700 on FanDuel. In comparison, like obviously I love Devontae Adams, but he was like 82 or 8,300. He was much more expensive. Adam Thielen, for the volume that he was going to get, was way too cheap on FanDuel. So I thought it was a site-specific play. He was a lot more expensive on DK. Like same price, but obviously DK and FanDuel pricing is different. So I had no problem locking in Adam Thielen on FanDuel and was rewarded. TJ Hawkinson went over. Jacobs went over. Then Washington, honestly, like I know a lot of like sharp people were on them. Honestly, I didn't like love them by any means. Now I see after seeing their pass rush, I should certainly do. But they just fit. They were really cheap. I really like cheap defenses. And I loved every other piece of my lineup. Washington was there. So, okay, roll out. So got to 2, I'm going to separate it. So 1-0 on DraftKings, 1-0 on FanDuel. Really would love nothing more than to keep it going. I hope you enjoy this content. If you have any sort of feedback or anything you want to see, please let me know. Certainly would love to adapt this recap to you guys and how it can help you the most. All right, so once again, Keith, aka Gator Guy 231. Good luck in week 2, and we'll see you back on Wednesday night for the top play shows with TK and Zach. And also just make sure Chris, aka Hold the Door DFS, doing some awesome showdown NFL content on our channel. Make sure you check that out. Probably will pop up here as a recommendation. See ya and have a good day.